Hello, trading has closed on the 18th of October, 2022. We always do our disclaimer first, review our calls, and make some predictions. It's my trading plan for Wednesday, the 19th of October, 2022. Please remember I can be completely wrong, and any trade you make should be at your own risk. I've got a lot of people who order my webinar, which I appreciate. It really would save me time if you could email me your address, your email address at mejt.trades@gmail.com. I need to know where to send the webinar to, and I can find it on PayPal, but it would just save me time if you could email me directly. In the book, of course, the paper copy isn't available any longer. New, but it's possible to get a used copy at Amazon, and there's still an electronic version available. You have to go to Harriman House, who's the publisher. Okay, back to work. Looked for the pattern with the early low. We saw we could gap up. We got that. Pattern tends to be a rally day with a high in the final hour. We got that. We got the high. It wasn't really a rally day. And if that's maintained at tomorrow's open, it's weak. Usually when you don't have a strong rally on these days, more weakness comes. And usually when the early drop is that bad, more weakness comes. Of course, what counts isn't how we close, but how we open tomorrow. Futures are up smartly. And if we gap and overtake this high promptly, all is forgiven. You have your standard rally day. And that's possible, particularly when there's an optional target of 3753.33, which has a high likelihood of printing tomorrow, even though it isn't required. We're also close to an ultimate target from a couple of weeks ago, 3770.96. Futures are up smartly as I'm recording this. It's certainly likely we'll get the optional target. If we can maintain the rally overnight, it's possible we can get the ultimate target, 3770.96, which ultimately should print. Just remember, these just aren't targets, they're also resistance areas, and if they do print, there'll be resistance over them. Even if we get the rally, which excuses the failure of the market to stage a good rally today, this early drop is suspicious. It tends to lead to more weakness fairly soon thereafter, even though it isn't always immediate. During the day, we got an ultimate sell signal, even though the market had gapped up sharply, and that certainly worked. There is the optional higher target that will overtake this line. This rally looked like it had potential to overtake it, but MEJT said it was a false move. The prices would retrace under this line, and that's already played out. Well, here's my buy that reversed with a flat Bollinger Band, and there's a target to challenge the upper Bollinger Band. Now that was in the 3800s, but it's been dropping rapidly. I mean, when this happened initially, the bar was in the high 3800s. It's now 3815 and change. If we keep dropping at this pace Wednesday, we could actually hit the line, which is the target, even if we don't go up all that much. So we're getting close to the minimum required by this pattern. Now, hitting a target isn't a stop and reverse, but it's a sign you might be running out of steam, and it means you need reinforcements to keep the rally going. Well, here's the diamond on stilts pattern. This is a split stilt. You can see that you take this price here in the high as a Fibonacci target. Here's the origin of the left stilt, and that's resistance. So it's acting the way it was supposed to act, and that pattern's completed too. Now, completing the pattern doesn't mean you have to reverse. It just means you don't have any higher targets from the pattern. But don't forget, at some point, this thing has to fall. Doesn't mean it falls now, but you've had a huge rally, and you've gone as far as you have to go, which doesn't mean you have to stop, but does mean that you've hit your target. For tomorrow, the signals I have are quite mixed. We'll use these rules. Tomorrow's pattern has a early low. It could still gap up. The signals are mixed. It's possible there's a higher MEJT target. It's optional, so it doesn't have to print, but nearly always will. If it doesn't print tomorrow, we'll just forget it. But it's negative. Today's normally bullish pattern didn't close near its high. If we gap and promptly overtake today's high tomorrow, that vitiates it. But futures are up smartly as I write that, so such a gap is entirely possible. But the size of the early drop usually, not always, is accompanied by further weakness, even if it doesn't come immediately. The pattern has met or is close to meeting its minimum objectives. Hitting a target isn't necessarily a signal to stop and reverse, but does mean the market is vulnerable to reversing fairly soon. Don't forget we have those targets, which are also resistance areas, just in front of us. Bulls need another show of force to keep the momentum going. So this probably isn't over yet. Futures are up. We have an optional target, 37.53.33. We have an ultimate target, 37.70.96. But don't forget, we're coming close to the declining upper Bollinger Band. We've had a huge rally from under 3,500 to close to 3,800. And even though we might go higher, we don't really have to satisfy the buy signal at the lows. So if we do get the rally, which futures are indicating, be on the reverse because it might be on the lookout because it doesn't have to stick. I'm not saying it won't, it just doesn't have to. Tomorrow has a really low, and that's today's call.